Hello, welcome to this course on painting flowers in watercolor. This is going to be a 5-class course, and in it we're going to start from easy to more complicated, but in each class I'm going to show you a different approach to painting this same sort of subject matter. And my hope is that learning these different ways to approach the subject matter is really going to expand your horizons as an artist. So in the first class, we're going to take a look at just painting flowers that are simple, large shapes with absolutely no background. This first class is also just going to focus on one color, which will simplify things for the beginner as well. So go ahead and get a 1-inch flat brush and a medium round, and then a smaller round for details. These are all we need to start work today. Then I have some clean water, and I have a spray bottle, and I have a palette of colors. The first thing that we're going to do is determine what on our palette looks closest to what we see on the reference material. So I'm just going to mix up some pinks and reds until I see something that comes close. This actually seems really close in itself. And then I'm going to have on my palette a puddle of that same color that will last me for a while so that I don't have to remix it and rematch. And then I'm also going to have a very dark, intense portion as well as a more diluted portion of that same color. So I'm going to start with my medium round, and I'm going to start by working with an intense color in the middle where I see some intense color on my page. So you're not trying to work really quickly here. I'm laying down this intense color, and importantly, I am going to work around these yellow shapes, so I'll save those and I'll put those in a little bit later after this first pass is dried. And I'm just looking at my reference. Now I simply traced the image straight on this flower. You don't always need to trace, but if you're just wanting to start painting right away and save yourself some time, why not? So I'm just going to put down these shapes of the darks, and I'm using very intense watercolor, but importantly, I'm not always using the same shade. I'm letting different colors mix on the page. This shape goes into this petal. So as I work, follow along on the reference material and you can see these shapes of color that I'm putting down. So there are these really intense color shapes first. And as I work slowly, I have plenty of time to avoid my lights. So I don't need to mask any of those light colors like the yellows or anything like that. And once I put down a color, as that puddle is still wet, I might want to go back in and drop in more color just to make it really intense. Be aware that watercolor always dries lighter than it looks when you put it down. And then I'm going to rinse my brush out, dab it dry, and then I'm going to go back before this has a chance to dry, and I'm softening up the edges of these shapes with water. And as I dilute this paint, I'm not only softening that shape, I'm also pulling out a lighter version of that same color, which is pretty handy because that's about what we see going on in this painting anyway. But you don't want to add too much water at once or you're going to create bleeds. So here, let's go through and just quickly pull out the color here as well. And where I see really bright whites, I'm just working around those. You don't need to work very quickly. You just don't want the watercolor to dry completely before you have a chance to do this pull out, because this style lends itself really well to what we see going on in this flower. Drop in more color in these lines where I see them on the flower, and then just continue that same way to fill in this entire flower petal. If I want, I can go the other way too, so start in the tips where I see a little bit more color, build that up, and then pull down from the tip of the petal into the rest of the body. Soften that in the same way that I've been doing, but now I'm working in the opposite direction. So I'm just holding the brush fairly straight up and down, and I'm pulling little lines like I see them in the growth of this flower. You can also go back in again and drop in yet more color